Have you ever lain in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying a single conversation in your mind again and again? Maybe it was something small, like the way you said hi to someone, or a text you sent that felt a little awkward. And yet, your mind won't let it go. It keeps looping, pulling you into a spiral of what-ifs, making you feel heavier with every thought. That's the silent trap of overthinking. It doesn't shout at you, it whispers. It takes one small thought and stretches it into hours of self-doubt, regret, and imaginary scenarios that may never even happen. Overthinking feels like you're solving a problem, but in reality the only problem is the endless loop itself, and slowly it starts to drain you, mentally, emotionally, even physically. The truth is, overthinking is not just a bad habit. Psychologists call it a form of cognitive distortion, a pattern of thinking that twists reality, makes you second-guess yourself, and destroys your peace of mind. It can kill your confidence, ruin relationships, and even paralyze you from making decisions. But here's the deeper question: why do we do it? Why do intelligent, capable people find themselves trapped in this cycle of thoughts that only lead to pain? In this video, we'll break down the psychology of overthinking, why it happens, how it hijacks your mind, and most importantly, how to break free before it destroys you. So if you've ever felt like your brain won't stop, stay with me, because this might just change the way you see yourself. Let me start with a story. Imagine this. You're at work and during a meeting you share an idea. Nothing big, just a suggestion. People nod politely, the discussion moves on. But later that night, your brain won't stop replaying it. Did I sound stupid? Why didn't anyone respond? Maybe they were secretly judging me. Maybe I embarrassed myself. And suddenly, what was a 2-minute moment in the meeting has now become a 2-hour spiral in your head. You can't sleep. You keep rewinding the scene, analyzing the expressions on everyone's face, trying to decode what they really meant. That's overthinking. And here's the strange thing. In that moment, your brain actually thinks it's helping you. It believes that by analyzing every detail, it will protect you from future mistakes, future embarrassment, future pain. But instead of protecting you, it traps you. Psychologists call this rumination. It's when the mind gets stuck in a loop, repeating the same thought over and over like a broken record. It feels active, like you're solving a puzzle, but in reality, nothing is being solved. It's like running on a treadmill. You're sweating, you're exhausted, but you're not moving forward even one step. Why does this happen? Because the human brain is designed for survival, not peace. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors needed to overanalyze. If they heard a sound in the bushes, their survival depended on asking, was it the wind or a predator waiting to attack? Overthinking back then was useful. It kept us alive. But here's the tragedy. In today's world, there are no predators in the bushes. The dangers we face are often psychological, not physical. Yet our brain still reacts the same way, constantly scanning for threats, constantly reanalyzing conversations, decisions, and possibilities. And the more intelligent you are, the more detailed those mental scenarios become. Think about it. Overthinking is like a magnifying glass. It takes a small event, something that might not even matter, and blows it up until it feels huge. A simple good morning from a colleague that sounded less cheerful than usual suddenly becomes a 30-minute thought spiral. Did I upset them? Did I say something wrong yesterday? Are they mad at me? This is what psychologists call cognitive distortion. It's when your brain tricks you into believing something is far bigger, far scarier, far more important than it actually is. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you feel small. And here's the cruel part. Overthinking convinces you that the next thought will finally bring clarity. If I just analyze this one more time, I'll feel better. But you never do. The relief never comes. Instead, you wake up the next morning tired, drained, already behind, and the cycle continues. Does this sound familiar? Have you ever found yourself mentally exhausted before the day even started, simply because of the thoughts you couldn't let go of the night before? That's the hidden mechanism of overthinking. It feels productive, but it destroys productivity. It feels protective, but it creates fear. It feels like thinking deeply, but in truth, it's the opposite of wisdom. Wisdom creates peace. Overthinking creates chaos. And here's the most painful part. The more you fight with your thoughts, the stronger they get. Like quicksand, the harder you struggle, the deeper you sink. So the real question becomes, not just what is overthinking, but how do we escape this invisible prison? That's where we move next, to understand why the very people who seem so intelligent, so capable, so thoughtful, are often the ones most trapped by their own thoughts. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the most intelligent people in the room are often the quietest? They listen, they observe, they analyze, and yet, when they're alone, their mind becomes their loudest enemy. Why does this happen? Why do smart people, people who can solve complex problems, make great decisions, and understand things deeply, end up trapped in overthinking? The answer lies in the very gift that makes them intelligent: their ability to imagine. You see, intelligence is like a double-edged sword. On one side, it allows you to create, to dream, to solve problems others can't even see. But on the other side, that same ability creates infinite possibilities. A simple choice, like sending a message or making a decision, suddenly splits into 1,000 possible outcomes in the mind of a thinker. For example, imagine you're about to text someone. Should I say this or maybe that? What if they misunderstand? What if I sound too formal, too casual? What if they don't reply at all? To someone else, it's just a text. But to an intelligent mind, it becomes a chess game with endless moves. And here's the irony. Because they see so many angles, they hesitate. Because they can imagine everything that could go wrong, they fear moving forward. Their intelligence, instead of freeing them, builds a prison with invisible bars. Let me tell you a story. There was once a university student, brilliant in every subject. Professors admired his insights. Friends came to him for advice. But when it came to his own life, he was paralyzed. He wanted to start a small business, but never did. Why? Because he kept imagining every possible failure. What if I lose money? What if no one supports me? What if I embarrass myself? Years passed and his dream stayed just that, a dream. Not because he wasn't capable, but because his mind created 1,000 reasons not to try. Does this sound familiar? Maybe you've had a dream too. Maybe you thought of starting something new, taking a risk, making a change. But instead of acting, you stayed up at night analyzing, overanalyzing, and in the end, doing nothing. That's the curse of a brilliant mind. It never stops. And sometimes it turns against you. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. It's when you think so much about a decision that you become unable to make one. And here's the cruel part. While you're busy overthinking, life moves on. Opportunities pass, doors close, and you're left with regret. But let's go deeper. Smart people also overthink because they care more. They notice details others overlook. They see patterns others miss. If someone frowns, they don't just see a frown, they wonder, what does that mean? Did I do something wrong? Is that person upset? This sensitivity, this awareness is beautiful. It makes them empathetic, thoughtful, kind, but it also makes them vulnerable. Vulnerable, because every interaction becomes a puzzle to solve. Every silence feels like rejection. Every choice feels heavier than it should. And here's another truth. The smarter you are, the more connected you feel to the past and the future. You replay old mistakes as if they happened yesterday. You imagine future failures as if they've already arrived. And in doing so, you miss the only place where peace truly exists, the present moment. Think about it. How many times have you been physically present in a room but mentally somewhere else, stuck in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears? That's the overthinker's curse. They live everywhere but now. And let's be honest, overthinking feels safe, doesn't it? It gives the illusion of control. You tell yourself, if I just think about this long enough, I'll figure it out. But here's the paradox. The more you think, the less clear things become. The more you analyze, the more confused you get. It's like standing in front of 100 doors and trying to choose the right one. The longer you stand there, the heavier your feet feel, until finally, you don't move at all. And while you're stuck, life keeps moving. Others take risks, others fail and grow, others try and learn. And the overthinker? They remain in their head, safe, but stagnant. So why do smart people overthink more? Because intelligence magnifies possibilities. because sensitivity magnifies emotions, because memory magnifies regrets, and imagination magnifies fears. In other words, the very gifts that make them extraordinary are the same things that make them lonely inside their own head. But here's the good news. Once you understand this pattern, once you realize that your mind is painting pictures that aren't always real, you begin to reclaim power. The first step is awareness. The second is choice. Because in the end, intelligence is not the enemy. It's the lack of control over that intelligence that creates suffering. And in the next part, we'll uncover exactly how overthinking begins to poison your relationships, your happiness, and even your sense of self, without you even realizing it. Let's get real for a moment. Overthinking doesn't just live inside your head. It leaks into every corner of your life. It affects your relationships, your happiness, even the way you see yourself. Think about this. How many times have you replayed a simple conversation over and over in your mind? Maybe a friend said something small, something harmless, but your brain twisted it into a bigger story. Why did they say it like that? Did they mean something else? Are they upset with me? And the irony is, the most of the time they weren't upset at all. Maybe they were tired. Maybe they were distracted. But while they moved on, you stayed stuck, analyzing every word, every pause, every detail, until the weight of it crushed your peace. This is how overthinking kills happiness. It turns life into a courtroom where you are both the judge and the accused. Every action is questioned. Every silence becomes suspicious. Every smile hides a secret meaning. And soon you stop enjoying the moment. Instead of laughing freely, you wonder, am I laughing too loud? Do I look awkward? Instead of expressing yourself, you think, what if they don't understand me? What if I sound stupid? Before you know it, you're not living. You're performing. And performances are exhausting. Now let's talk about relationships. Overthinking is like a slow poison in love and friendship. At first, it looks harmless. Just small doubts, small worries. But over time, those doubts multiply. Let's say your partner doesn't reply to a text right away. A non-overthinker shrugs and says, they're probably busy. But an overthinker, they build a whole movie in their head. Why aren't they replying? Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? Are they with someone else? And here's the dangerous part. Your brain convinces you that this story is real. You start treating your partner based on your imagination, not reality. You become distant, defensive, insecure. And your partner, confused and hurt, pulls away. In the end, the thing you feared the most, losing them, becomes more likely. Not because of them, but because of the storm inside you. I once heard a story about a woman who loved her husband deeply, but she couldn't stop overthinking. Every time he was late, she imagined the worst. Every time he seemed quiet, she thought he was hiding something. She loved him so much, but her love was buried under endless suspicion. Years later, her husband told her, I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because you stopped trusting me. That's what overthinking does. It doesn't just hurt you, it pushes people away. But let's go even deeper. Overthinking doesn't only destroy relationships with others, it destroys the relationship you have with yourself. You start doubting your own worth. You tell yourself, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm too much, maybe I'll always be alone. And those thoughts, repeated again and again, carve deep wounds in your identity. And slowly, without even realizing it, you stop believing in yourself. You stop taking risks, you stop dreaming, because your brain convinces you that failure is guaranteed. And here's the saddest part. Overthinking steals the little joys of life. The coffee that should taste warm and comforting becomes just another background to your racing thoughts. The sunset that should bring peace becomes unnoticed because you're busy replaying yesterday's mistakes. The laughter of a loved one doesn't reach your heart because you're wondering if they truly mean it. Overthinking doesn't destroy life all at once. It destroys it in small pieces, every single day. And before you realize it, you've lost years of joy to battles that only existed in your mind. But here's the truth I want you to remember. Most of the things you fear will never happen. Most of the scenarios you imagine will never become reality. And yet, you suffer as if they already have. It's like carrying an umbrella every day for a storm that never comes. You live soaked in fear, even when the sky is clear. So let me ask you, how many storms in your life were real, and how many existed only in your mind? And if you think about it, isn't that the cruelest part? That the pain you feel, the doubts you carry, the sleepless nights you endure, they're not always caused by reality. They're caused by your mind refusing to let go. But don't lose hope, because just as overthinking can destroy, awareness can rebuild. Just as the mind can imprison you, it can also free you. In the next part, we'll uncover how overthinking doesn't just steal happiness and love, it even attacks your mental health, turning anxiety and fear into constant companions. And more importantly, we'll start looking at the first steps to break free from this invisible trap. Here's the harsh truth. Overthinking doesn't just live in your thoughts, it lives in your body, your emotions, your entire existence. Think about the last time you lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Your body was tired, begging for sleep. But your mind, it refused to stop. Thoughts kept spinning. What if this happens? What if I fail? What if tomorrow goes wrong? And so while your body rested, your soul carried the weight of 1,000 imagined disasters. You woke up exhausted, not because life was too heavy, but because your mind never let you rest. This is the hidden tax of overthinking. It steals energy you don't even realize you're losing. But let's go deeper. Overthinking is often the root of anxiety. When you constantly replay scenarios in your head, your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality, so it reacts as if the danger is real. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your chest feels tight. All of this because of something that hasn't even happened. It's like being chased by a lion that doesn't exist. The fear is real, but the lion isn't. Now here's the scary part. If overthinking continues unchecked, it doesn't stop at anxiety. It invites depression. How? Because when your mind constantly tells you something bad will happen, and then adds, and even if it doesn't, you're not good enough to handle life. Eventually you stop fighting. You start to believe it. You stop taking chances. You stop dreaming big. You stop trusting yourself. And soon life feels heavy, dark, and meaningless. I once spoke to a young man who said something heartbreaking. I feel like I've lived 100 lifetimes in my head, but none in the real world. That's what overthinking does. It gives you the pain of living without the joy of truly living. And let's not forget about fear. Overthinking magnifies fear until it becomes a constant companion. A person who doesn't overthink sees a locked door and tries to open it. What if something bad is behind it? What if I embarrass myself by trying? And so they never even touch the handle. Overthinking doesn't just create fear, it teaches avoidance. And avoidance slowly builds a life that feels smaller and smaller. You avoid risks, you avoid opportunities, you avoid love. Until one day you look around and realize you've avoided life itself. But perhaps the most painful cost of overthinking is the emptiness it leaves inside. Because when your mind is constantly filled with thoughts, there's no room for peace. When you're always in the past or the future, you miss the present. The truth is, peace doesn't come from solving every problem in your head. It comes from accepting that not everything can be solved, that life is meant to be lived, not overanalyzed. But overthinking tricks you into believing the opposite. It whispers, if you think a little harder, you'll figure it all out. If you replay it one more time, you'll find the answer. And so, you keep chasing clarity, but all you find is confusion. You keep chasing certainty, but all you find is fear. It's like running on a treadmill. Your legs are moving, your heart is racing, but you're not going anywhere. And eventually, you collapse from exhaustion. Now let me ask you something. How many moments of joy, how many nights of peace, how many opportunities of growth have you lost? Not because life was cruel, but because your mind wouldn't stop. How many times did you already punish yourself for things that never happened? How many times did you create storms in your head, only to realize later the skies were clear all along? This is the tragedy of overthinking. It doesn't just hurt you once, it hurts you over and over again for things that don't even exist. But here's what I want you to remember. Your thoughts are not facts. Just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you imagine a disaster doesn't mean it will happen. Overthinking may feel powerful, But in reality, it's a thief. It steals your peace, your confidence, your joy. And the first step to freedom is realizing you don't have to believe every story your mind creates, because in the end, the cost of overthinking is not measured in sleepless nights or anxious days. It's measured in unlived moments. In the laughter you missed, the love you pushed away, the life you postponed, all because of thoughts that never deserved your energy. But don't worry, we're not stopping here, because in the next and final part we'll explore something powerful: how to break free from overthinking, practical steps, mindset shifts, a way to finally silence the noise and reclaim your peace. You've seen what overthinking does, how it steals your peace, creates anxiety, and shrinks your life. But here's the good news. Overthinking isn't who you are. It's just a habit of the mind, and like all habits, it can be unlearned. So, how do you break free? How do you stop the noise inside your head and finally find peace? Let me tell you something first. Freedom doesn't begin with silence. It begins with awareness. Think about it. Most of us don't even realize when we're overthinking. The thoughts feel so natural, so constant, that we don't notice we're trapped. It's like standing in the rain and forgetting you're wet. So the very first step is noticing. Catch yourself in the act. The moment you realize, wait, I'm spiraling again, you've already taken back control. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need to practice something even more powerful: letting go of control. See, overthinking comes from a desperate need to control everything, to predict the future, to undo the past, to find certainty in a world that will never be certain. But life isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to be lived. And the more you accept that you cannot know everything, the lighter your soul feels. One practice that helps is this. When you catch yourself overthinking, ask, is this useful? Is this helping me right now? If the answer is no, gently remind yourself to step back. Not every thought deserves your attention. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But how do I just stop my thoughts? You don't. You redirect them. Imagine holding a glass of water. The more you grip it tightly, the more your hand aches. But if you gently place it down, the pain disappears. Your thoughts are the same. You don't have to grip them until your mind hurts. You can set them down. One way to do that is through presence. When your mind is racing, focus on your breath, on the sound of the wind outside, on the weight of your body against the chair. These small acts bring you back to the present, where overthinking cannot survive. Another powerful step is action. Overthinking paralyzes you because it convinces you to keep waiting for the perfect moment. But action, even small action, breaks the loop. Write that email. Take that walk. Say what you've been holding inside. Because here's the truth. Clarity doesn't come from thinking more, it comes from doing. But let's go even deeper. Breaking free also means changing how you see yourself. Overthinking thrives on self-doubt. It feeds on the belief that you're not capable, not enough, not strong enough to handle life. So every time you take action, every time you stop replaying the past and instead live in the present, you're sending a new message to yourself. I can handle this, I am stronger than my fears, and over time this belief grows louder than the voice of overthinking. Now, here's something important. Don't expect perfection. Even the most peaceful people still catch themselves overthinking sometimes. The difference is, they don't stay trapped. So if you find yourself spiraling again tomorrow, don't be harsh with yourself. Don't say, why am I still like this? Instead, smile gently and say, my mind is trying to protect me again, but I don't need that right now. This kindness toward yourself is not weakness, it's strength. Because peace doesn't come from fighting your mind, it comes from understanding it. And here's a final thought I want to leave with you. At the end of your life, you won't remember the nights you spent worrying in bed. You won't remember the hours you spent analyzing conversations in your head. What you will remember are the moments you were fully alive, the laughter, the risks, the love you gave and received. Overthinking steals those moments if you let it. But if you choose, today, right now, to live more, to think less, to let go of the stories in your head, then you'll find something that overthinking could never give you: freedom. So ask yourself, do you want to live in your head? Or do you want to live your life? Because the choice, my friend, has always been yours.